With transport, long haul goes out the window. That's an end to, among other things, super tankers. So if you are getting your oil from 3,000 or more miles away, you're out of luck. Um, Ships are going to have to be smaller and go faster because the concentrated risk that a giant container vessel has, you lose one of those and the shipping company goes away. If you're doing smaller tankers or smaller ships that are going faster, they can't carry as much. You just lost most intermediate goods trade. That's an end to electronics manufacturing in its current form. So you can play this on really any topic that you want, but the structures that have all held it together and made it work are dependent upon the ceiling not falling, and it's falling. The only non-European empire that mattered at the time was the Soviet Union, which was the target of all this, and Japan, which was subjugated. So everyone who in the past had been a bad actor, if you want to use that very loaded term, all of a sudden was on the same side. Everyone who had ever had a projection-based military throughout human history was in the same coalition. It worked for a while. I would say that there's not a lot of light between me and those names. I mean, obviously, when you get into the details, analysts can quibble about everything, they do, absolutely. But the core idea that without energy, none of this works is solid. We've spent the last 70 years bringing the energy from where it's produced to where it's consumed, which means primarily from the Middle East to Europe and East Asia. North America is more or less a self-contained component, even was before the shale revolution. Now it certainly is. That was one of the prices the Americans paid in order to get their alliance, is making sure the energy would flow. In the environment we're in now, we're at a risk of losing all Russian crude. Now, I've always thought this was going to happen eventually. I didn't think it was going to happen this soon. Russian crude is what has largely fueled the global economic expansion since '92. Because when the Soviet system collapsed, their energy production did not, and all of their commodities were just dumped on the international market. And that has kept prices relatively low for 35 years. That period is now closing. And so we're going to lose 5% of global crude, which doesn't sound like a big deal until you remember that energy demand is inelastic. And a 5% loss in crude can easily generate a tripling in price. So an energy-induced depression that is broadly global in scope will start because of the Ukraine war at some point. And this is probably the reason that no one's gone after that raft yet, because that would be the death blow for the Russian energy sector. The math is going to be different for everybody. Like take Latvia. Latvia has the capacity to do this. All they have to do is grab one shuttle tanker as it's leaving St. Petersburg. That would do it. And the Latvians have already managed to wean themselves off of Russian crude, and while it would crush most of their European partners, they would see the destruction of the primary income stream for Russia as an unalloyed good. Or consider the Americans. We're self-sufficient. We have the capacity of putting a wall around our energy exports so they stay at home. So we could actually see energy prices in the U.S. go down because of this. But then the rest of the world would lose access to Russian and American crude at the same time. So everyone has their own math to run. And a lot of it is going to depend upon how everyone interprets the loyalty or the actions of their allies. So, I mean, look at Germany. The Russians are in the process of jerking with the Germans on natural gas. And, you know, for those of us in the rest of the world, like, yeah, natural gas, it's an energy source, whatever, no biggie. That's not what it is in Germany. The entire German economy is based on taking cheap Russian gas, processing it into petrochemicals, and then using those inputs in their entire manufacturing sector. If they lose that gas, it's not just that electricity prices go off. It's that the German manufacturing model fails. So the Germans are being presented with the choice. Leave the coalition and keep the lights on, or lose your gas and no longer be modern. So what's more important to the Germans, being Western or being modern? That's a shit choice. But it has consequences, and people will judge them based on what they do. The empire specifically, if you were a country that had a pretty good geography at the start of this, then when the Americans came through and changed the rules so that everyone can play, you saw a massive drop in your overall power. If you are one of those countries and you have a positive demographic structure you could actually make a lot of hay out of what's coming, because you could, I don't want to use the word imperial, neo-imperial might be the right word. You can definitely make a bid for your own neighborhood. So the two countries that are on the top of my list as regards that are Turkey and France. Decent demographics, good manufacturing base, largely not integrated into their neighborhoods economically. The French actually trade less with the EU than the Brits do. Fun fact. And I can see part of Western Europe becoming part of a French fiefdom, and obviously parts of the Middle East for Turkey. I would have put Japan on that list, but the Japanese managed to cut a deal with both Donald Trump and Joe Biden, which makes the Japanese the only people who have been able to get on with both sides of the American spectrum of late. So I think they've basically agreed to partner up with the U.S. rather than go their own way, which I think will be the best for everyone in the long term, unless you're Chinese, of course. That's up to you. You really need to figure out this Brexit thing. I mean, it's just, yes, you've left, but you still don't have any plan for what's next, and that is really hurting you. With every day that is pushed off, your negotiating power with whatever the structures of the future end up looking like are going to be weaker and weaker. And you're very rapidly getting to the point where the only option you're going to have is a trade deal with the United States on America's terms. There are worse things that could happen, but we will be as, what's the best way to phrase this? We will be as gentle in the negotiations as we were during the Lend-Lease talks, where you basically had to give up half of a hemisphere of military presence in exchange for 40 destroyers that you're used to laugh at because they were so bad. Well, the United States is starting this process with very little trade exposure to the wider world outside of manufacturing in Asia, a net energy exporter of all forms, the largest refining power in the world, the largest agricultural power in the world. So a lot of the things that every single country in the world is just going to have to stress about, us is just kind of a no-brainer. It's already there. In addition, successful manufacturing requires proximate labor that is at different skill sets and price points. So the person who's doing the injection molding is not the same guy who's making the microchip. With Mexico, we've got that already. So for us, a lot of the hard work has already been done. And while I'm not a huge fan of Donald Trump by any measure, his renegotiation of NAFTA was a stroke of genius, and it got ahead of a lot of these issues. Because of that, North America as a unit looks pretty strong. And we're already seeing established linkages to other powers that might be useful. So we, for example, already have free trade deals with Colombia and Chile, which are, in my opinion, the two most dynamic South American economies. We already have a long-term agreement with both the Koreans and the Japanese. The Australians have a free trade deal with the United States, and we're in league with the Australians and the Japanese, really starting to become engaged with Southeast Asia, which is another part of the world where the demographics and the geography line up. So that kind of greater American co-prosperity sphere is about as good as it's going to get. I mean, you'll have to deal with the Americans. We tend to be a little twitchy sometimes, but we're twitchy in a different hemisphere for most of the partners, which most people really like. In your neck of the woods, France is just going to be completely insufferable. Because they're going to become the broker for the Germans. They're going to become the first power in Iberia and in Italy, and they're probably going to make a bid for the Low Countries too. And the longer it takes the UK to become a self-sustaining power again, the more advantage the French are going to have in rewriting the local rules. So a good example is that you've built these two super carriers. They're top-notch pieces of equipment. But between budget cuts and austerity and the financial crisis, you let the rest of your Navy die. So you've got these two fantastic vessels with no defensive rings, which means the only way that you would ever let them leave port is if they're sailing as part of an American battle group. Again, not a good negotiating position.
Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am back with another new video. In this video,
Marked a location.
Zeihan has discussed about the Russian oil and international relationships. So guys, if you would like to watch video like this, then you can subscribe my channel and watch each and every of my videos. I hope this video will be enjoyable and entertaining for you. If you
Marked a
think
location.
so, that you can subscribe and watch the full video.
I got supplies.
Until I have stay upload another new content. Guys, Scott Peter Zeihan is an well-known person and geopolitics analyzer. So if you would like to watch video of him, then you can subscribe my channel and watch each and every of my videos. Thank you guys for watching still. Thank guys, keep watching until the what's happened. Now I am playing a game whose name is BGM and my teammates are playing this match, but I have finished in this game too early. Guys, keep watch. My teammate has finished this, guys. Thank you guys for watching until the end. Now I am going to end this video from here because this is the enough for me. I'll be back with another video next time. If you like to watch Zeihan's content, then you can subscribe my channel and watch each and every video and press the notification icon for future updates. Bye for now.